Okay. Does that make sense? You follow me? The main thing I want you to get though is that blood sugar is regulated for the brain predominantly. Glycogen is regulated for fight or fight predominantly. Body fat is regulated for all of your fueling needs at rest predominantly. And muscle tissue and protein, muscle and tissue protein that comes from muscles and tissue are reserved for starving. If there's no food available and your glycogen reserves are getting tapped out and your blood sugar starting to drop, your body will break down protein and it will do everything it can to make sure that that brain is getting what it needs through ketosis or whatever. And so everything around this is regulated to make sure that at all times this is preserved. Because as soon as you do not have adequate fueling for the brain, it's not good. It's not good, right? You're going to end up not being able to do hardly anything, if not going into like a coma, right? Or falling asleep and then dying. That's what happens when you die of starvation, is your body ultimately cannot supply anymore the needed sugar for your brain. Okay, so the key thing for you, so you're going to need to have an understanding of that. Okay, but the main thing I want you to recognize is the incredible level of leptin that comes from what? Where does the most of the leptin in your body come from? Your fat tissue. Yes. Your other parts of the brain and other parts can make it, but most of it, almost all of the blood leptin running through your body is stimulated and produced at your fat cell. Okay. So each cell of fat produces leptin. What that means is that it's like, think of each fat cell is in and of itself its own organ. It can expand, it can multiply, right? So here's a fat cell. This is where these fatty acids, this is like a strand of lipid, lipid cell, fatty acid, where this fatty acid gets in here, it gets broken down, pow, into what we call ATP, which is that's the gasoline our body needs to function. This is not gasoline yet, right? That's not gasoline yet. In fact, glucose isn't gasoline yet. It has to get broken down through glycolysis, and then it has to go through this process to then become the same thing, whatever this is. Just think of this as human gasoline. It has to be available. It has to be in the right form for it to be usable at this micro level. So these are just storage or reservoirs of different ways to get that. And they all function differently, right? But in the end, what determines this, which is fueling a lot of your day at rest, okay, is this hormone. Leptin is what determines, remember these are doors or gates here. Leptin is what determines the rate of beta oxidation, which is another way of saying this, fat metabolism. Like there are these pathways through this whole entire thing where when they're open, this thing, whoop, that's Milano-CoA, bam, it can attach, get through, spit out fuel, right? So leptin ultimately is a rate limiting factor in fat metabolism. It determines the rate at which you produce fuel, okay? So, and that ultimately, if your body fat and your leptin levels are in this kind of like, let's say equal, I'm going to put equals here. If your leptin levels are at an equal position, meaning it's adequate for your fueling needs, then these are kind of preserved. So this, it doesn't get used. And this is basically in and out of use depending on like your movement, quick bursts of movement. Same with this one. And so this kind of works a little bit more kind of as a well-oiled machine at rest. Okay. So with that, you get, it's equal to your metabolic needs. And there's less threat to blood sugar. Does that make sense? So if body fat's doing its job, there's less threat to to that, and this is always available just in case you need to sprint, right? So it's really quick and easy, but it kind of preserves it. You're not starving and utilizing that glycogen. You're utilizing the glycogen stores to stay available and stay full for you to be able to use when you run across campus or when you're weight training, okay, or when you're competing in some type of sport, okay? So when leptin levels start to go up, not from this point, okay? So let's imagine in this little middle spot, leptin levels start to decline. Body fat percent, or the body fat, or your fat metabolism declines. If your body's fueling needs are not met by how much fat is available, because there's not enough leptin in relation to your needs, your body will start tapping into this. So now this is getting threatened. So once your blood sugar levels go below a certain point in the brain, so brain sugar levels go down, that is what triggers the drop in leptin in the brain that initiates the hormones that create that irritation, agitation, time-constrained feeling of I need to eat. I need to eat soon. I need to eat now. Get out of my way. You're pissing me off. I'm hangry. That's what leptin does when it declines in the brain. And that is a result of lower blood brain leptin levels, right? And that's a result of your body fat not adequately supplying your body's fueling needs. So when you're hungry, that's a sign your fat metabolism isn't adequate. Again, just because you are bored or just because you might want to eat because it's distracting you from something that's making you anxious does not mean that you're actually hungry and you actually need food for this reason, okay? Any questions up to this point? Any confusion? Because this is a great time for us to like have discourse or talk about it if you do.
So I did what you suggested and got through most of my day before I even realized I hadn't eaten. I started like I wasn't hungry still, but I still started to feel gross. So I was like, I need to eat, but I wasn't hungry.
Okay.
So like with that, how do you also eat for like exercise? Like kind of like that dual edge. Because I worked out that morning and then I was active all day long.
So there's a lot that can go into that, right? Like what other hormones and what other things affect your leptin levels that aren't food-based, right? Stress, lack of sleep, so insulin's impact on, cortisol and how all these things kind of work together. So it's the hard part is being able to recognize, actual hunger. If you're starting to feel drained, you might have just skipped over it. You might have been busy. You might have like had something else going on. It could have been stress related, right? Where you're probably don't need it, but you worked out, you might feel your blood salt, your sodium levels might be down, your electrolytes might be down. There's all those things. Your B12 might be down. There might be a protein deficiency, or there might be an increased need for protein that can go into this. So when it comes to exercise, let's remove that from this conversation, okay? Because, okay, let's put you in primal mode. Let's put you in the wilderness. What would you say to someone who's trying to survive in the wilderness in that moment? Well, yeah, your cortisol is pretty high. I mean, but there's all sorts of things that exercise can do to improve that and to like play with our system in the luxury that we live in today. My suggestion for someone in the wilderness would be like, well, look at your rations. If you start to feel the drain, you probably should be eating and try to add salt if you can, right? So, and the other part of this, that is great. Anybody else have a question similar to that? It's complicated. I know, I'm making it so linear. It's just so easy. You just follow these steps. It's not, but when you think of this in terms of how our bodies evolved and how our brains have adapted and our bodies have adapted to this incredible energy reservoir system that is constantly working for us without our knowledge. And I can't do it justice. Like my simplification is very reductive. I'm not doing it justice. This is amazing how this is just constantly working in and out of all of these things, except that one. That one's very predictable starvation mode, where exercise changes this. And there's not enough research in that, especially in the area of women and our menstrual cycles that impact it, right? And how stress impacts it, how, you know, how everything shuts and moves things around. So if we were all at rest, this gets more predictable. Okay. So quickly here, when your leptin levels elevate, the thyroid signal goes up. Now there's a point where it doesn't go up anymore. It can only do so much, right? It's got its peak limitation. Your thyroid doesn't grow in size so that you can produce more. It gets turned all the way on or it turns down, right? With like a volume control. And that volume control is very finely tuned with brain leptin levels, which is finely tuned with blood sugar levels, right? So when your leptin levels go up, your thyroid does go up, and that energizes the body, right? So you should feel like, oh, I have energy. It's just like this internal kind of kinesthetic sense of energy. And like you're kind of motivated. You feel like you have room and your body doesn't feel heavy or slow, right? On the other side of this, when leptin levels go down, this, again, this is my way of describing the volume control. It goes down, right? And that reduction in the thyroid signal in relation to the reduction in leptin is a way that your body conserves and reduces your fuel needs, right? And remember, if your body fat is starting to take, or excuse me, if body fat is not adequate and the body then says, well, shit, I need fuel right now, I'm going to take from blood sugar. The suppression of the thyroid signal is what kind of allows your body fat. So if it goes down to 80%, your thyroid can be suppressed and reduce your fueling needs to match that. So it's a way of creating a new balance point. And so those of you who've experienced starvation, and sustained through it long enough, it's kind of incredible that hunger goes away. And all of a sudden, you now have created a new kind of set point, and that set point is very much regulated, again, by the signal coming from body fat in relation to blood sugar, which the brain is controlling, which the brain then controls this mechanism to reduce the demand so that it can keep up with the fueling needs your fat should be producing. So it's like this thermostat system, okay? So ultimately in between this, right, we have this mechanism of hunger. So in this case, if leptin levels are low, you need to pay attention to this because there's going to be a little quiz on Wednesday about this. So when leptin levels go down in the brain, hunger goes up. Right? Those other little called neuropeptide Y and agouti, these agitating enzymes and hormones in the brain turn on this agitation and irritability and this sense of urgency towards food. So there is a time constraint within this. So again, I like to compare this to going to the bathroom. That sense, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. Okay, I do have pressure in my bladder and I definitely need to go to the bathroom, but it's not urgent yet. I can hold off. Like some of you might be like, well, can I wait or do I need to go now to the bathroom? That's very similar with hunger, where you're like, okay, I'm kind of hungry, but I could wait till the end of class, or I'm freaking hungry. I'm gonna have to open this bag of chips in class and then like it's gonna be really loud, but I'm so hungry, I don't give a shit. I'm going to eat these chips anyways in the middle of class. You know what I'm saying? How we prioritize our eating behavior around hunger is very much regulated by leptin in the brain, which is regulated by your blood sugar, which is regulated by also how much fat is supplying to your body. So it all kind of comes back together, right? From the brain to the body, from the brain to the body at rest. So your fueling mechanisms in relation to metabolism and in relation to fat metabolism is regulated by body leptin and brain leptin. And then those other things get involved. But it's considered the king hormone for metabolism, for starvation mechanisms. It matters. Your body fat is kind of amazing in how it protects your brain. So I want you to think of that. Body fat protects the brain. Body fat supplies the fuel predominantly for the body in combination with glycogen. And when your body takes from blood sugar, your brain eventually will say, screw you, go eat. Food stimulates that process of fat metabolism. It stimulates fueling mechanisms that allows your blood sugar to recalibrate, and it takes the threat that the body poses to the brain. And body fat is ideal. And so is glycogen here. These two kind of work in unison, but ideally this is preserved for the brain. So when your hunger goes up, what does that mean? Means your fat is inadequately supplying fuel to the body, and your body is starting to take from blood sugar. If you are hungry, your body is taking from your brain's food, and your brain doesn't like it. Okay? So when you're hungry, brain leptin levels are lower, which means fat metabolism is lower. Simple. If you are not hungry, you're in this zone, this equal zone. Okay? Here, not hungry. Fat is doing a great job. You got all the fuel. Your glycogen is doing its job too. And your blood sugar is probably right within the zone it needs to be for your brain to be doing what it needs to do throughout the day. Any questions about that? So the really neat part about all of this is that you can use your biological sense of hunger and the absence of hunger to tell you when to eat and how much to eat. The key to this is that you really have a good sense of it. You know how we used to pee our pants growing up when you were little? You peed your pants because you didn't have a good sense of it. And over time, you started to get this sense, right? And your parents would give you candy or some type of reward for sitting on the toilet or pissing in the toilet or whatever. And you're like, oh, I have that urge. Oh, I know what that is. I'm going to run to the bathroom. Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. It's just like that. It's just like that. And the more in tune you get, the more capable or the more accurate your kind of sense of hunger becomes, the more precise you can get with when it's appropriate for you to eat biologically, okay? And when biologically it's not necessary. It's just not needed, okay? Any questions? Okay, so let's move on to, please stop me honestly, because that's the whole point of kind of this live kind of coursework, right? Is that I'm right here. I'm an expert at this shit. This is my jam. Okay. I've written a book on this. Like I love it. Give me questions, okay? Okay. So let's talk about how hunger feels and how it works. I think what I'm going to do right now in this moment is I'm going to go into the Canvas and I'm going to start this next assignment, and then you guys can pull up the paperwork from there. That way you can follow along with, hold on, let me get in here. Oh, wrong one. Oh, this is going to be so fun. This is fun for me. I'm not sure it's going to be fun for you, but it should be published. You guys see Hunger and Fullness Daily Log? Okay. So if you get in there, I want you to open your daily log. I think we're all probably trying to open this at the same time. So I'm not going to worry about it. But if you guys can get in there and open that up, do you guys have access to it? Okay. And I also want you to open in another, if you can, the hunger scale. It's right underneath. Okay. So you can see the hunger scale looks like this. You guys have that pulled up? Okay. I'm going to describe this better for you. So there's two parts to this. So often if you were to like Google hunger scale, it's like typically a 1 to 10, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how hungry are you? What I have found in a clinical setting, teaching this to all age groups, let me make sure my Zoom is up, is that it helps to split it in half. So that's why you see hunger scale on one side, fullness scale on the other. The intention with that is so that you can get the difference that when we talk about leptin and how it impacts hunger, does not create fullness. Leptin does not create fullness. It just removes hunger. Okay? So when you feel full, you're feeling mechanical food problems, right? I don't know if we would need to call it a problem, but you're feeling how food physically feels mechanically when you've had too much, right? When your stomach feels distended, when you feel kind of bloaty, when you feel that's a physical kind of mechanical sense. So it's important that you understand that. All leptin does is remove that angst and irritability. Okay. So I want you to envision this as I talk to you about it. And as you see the right side or the left side being the hunger scale and the right side being the fullness scale. And again, I created that. That's my actual creation you're looking at and what I used in the clinical setting to help people visualize this arch. Okay. So you need to think of it as an upside down U curve like that. Okay. Where we kind of have this. Well, I don't think that's fair. It's not 50-50. Okay. I would say we could probably break this down into like 3 parts. Let's do that. Okay. Here's the first part, here's the second part, and here's the third part. Okay. So this first part is hunger. This center part is, absence of hunger. And the third part here is fullness. Okay. I kind of help you there? Please stop me if you have questions. Just blurt it out. So let's start at the top. Okay. So let's say this is 4, and this is 6, and this is 5. Okay. So when you think of a 5, think of nothing. Like nothingness. How many of you here have nothing? I'm totally at nothing right now. I'm not full, I'm not hungry, I'm like, well, okay. That's a 5. A 4, you're starting to feel hungry, but you're patient. So I like to think 4 is patient. You're hungry, but patient. So that time constraint is that volume on time is turned down, but you're starting to feel it. How many of you are at a 4 right now? Okay, hungry, but could wait. You're not irritated, agitated, but you're thinking about it. You're like, ooh, what am I going to eat? Yay, I get excited. That's a 4. So you're hungry, but could wait. So there's patience involved. So you could wait. Okay. A 3, we get worse is when that volume on not just the pangs occur, but time and sense of urgency is now magnifying. You are now feeling like, whoa, like I need to eat now. What time is it? And you might have a snack and you might be like, I'm just going to start snacking because I don't know if I can wait until 1:15. Any of you at a 3 right now? But we've all been here, right? There's an entire industry that is making a lot of money with this 3? What industry is that? Who makes a buttload of money because we're at a 3? Say it louder. Fast food. Bingo. This is really appealing, and they've really hit a niche for humans that just haven't prepared or are caught off guard. Also, there is the financial factor, but it's fast, and that serves this, and that supersizing serves it too. As you get hungrier and that pain gets hungrier, the message becomes impulsive. So as you get to this 3, you are definitely hungry and you need to eat now. There is a sense of urgency. You're thinking, what can I eat now? What can I eat right now? And not only is that message loud, but it's also saying, eat as fast as you can. If you're at a 3, you're freaking hungry, but it gets even more intense at a 2. So I would say between this one and this one, this is you're hungry and you're going to eat fast, and it's for pain relief. So at a 2, I want you guys to think of your experience of this 2. Okay. You're more likely to go for fast food for sure at a 2, between the 2 and the 3. You become a little bit more angry or hangry. When someone says, I'm hangry, they're talking about a 2. The speed at which you eat goes up. Okay, it becomes a little more impulsive. You're less likely to chew and just be patient with the flavors and the taste. You're more likely to just scarf it in. Okay. How many of you guys have done that? Right, because you're freaking hungry and you're like, ugh, and you're trying to get the relief of the pain. What do you typically want to eat at a 2? Let's talk about it. Go through your mind and think, oh yeah, when I'm at a 2, what is it that you go to? So a lot in terms of quantity. Anybody else? You think high fat? Yeah, so the high fat part, does that fix this right away?
No.
No. So you need to, that's brainwashing. Let's like go to what it is that actually you want. Because it's not fat. It's actually sugar. It's the carbs. I need a cracker. Just get a cracker. But the fat, so it's slow. It's not typical, although you might be looking for flavor. So that could have some craving and attached to that. You're not wrong. But if you go back to the wilderness, you're going to lick a piece of fat, or are you going to go towards the cracker? Whatever's easiest, but whatever's going to get rid of this the fastest. So typically at this here, our nature wants a carbohydrate because it's so quick. It absorbs in the mouth. It breaks down in the mouth, and it can absorb in the mouth. So glucose or sugar or carbs is actually what I would recommend. If you're at a 2, you should probably get a carbohydrate in you quickly. What that does is it immediately satisfies that quick need, and it can actually slow the process down. If you're on a diet and they say you can't have carbs unless you say you go to fat, you're probably going to overeat a lot, right? Because you're trying to get rid of the pain and you're going to overconsume to compensate because it becomes impulsive. That's actually very healthy. This is not disordered. This is a healthy response to this area. If you start with crackers, you can temper that pain and slow it down. Okay. Now, if you're saying, I've done something wrong, I'm a piece of shit because carbs are bad and I just poisoned my body, you're now triggering that other list of insecurities with survival. And what are you going to do? You're going to binge. Now, that's a psychological compensation. That's not biological, right? I digress. We're going to now a 1. What does a 1 feel like? What do you guys think the 1 feels like? You have the list right there.
The hunger subsides.
The This is your thyroid just suppressed, right? Your body starts to use other things, those storage, your glycogen storage, it uses protein, it'll create an equilibrium. Hunger goes away. Now you might be like slower. You might have that thyroid signal reduction, like light might be a little bit more sensitive, right? Sounds might be a little louder, but you're calm, you're cool, because your body went into starvation mode to create that new equilibrium and it can sustain you there for a while. So then it shifts up. So it's like whoop, whoop. So the one actually goes bam. It just means that it's now shifted and this whole thing gets smaller, right? So you just suppress your whole thing. So now you get kind of a smaller like range. Once you get down here, this is starvation mode. And hunger goes down. But then again, protein use went up, thyroid suppressed. You now have a slower metabolism to make up for what you didn't eat in food. This is amazing. This is survival. This is like the coolest shit. Okay, this is how people get emaciated over time. Okay, so 5-0 burger, not feeling anything. Doesn't mean you don't want to eat. Doesn't mean you're not bored. Doesn't mean you don't have anxiety and trying to, again, escape something you don't want to pay attention to. Just means that you're biologically don't need to eat. You do not biologically need food in this zone. Okay, your body is doing fine. Your brain isn't pissed off yet. Once you start tipping into this zone, that's the message. Your body is stealing from your blood sugar. Your brain is pissed. Leptin levels are down in the brain. And then you're here, your brain is saying, stop, my blood sugar's low. Don't mess with my blood sugar. You better do something before I tap into body protein and suppress the thyroid. Right? And so this is the cool mechanism down here in this red zone for where your biology is telling you when you need to stimulate leptin, when your fat needs to be stimulated to release leptin. Okay. So that is the hunger side. Okay. So let's now talk about what it's like once you start eating. So let's say you're at a 4 and you're like, oh, I think I need to eat. Okay. Well, the timing feels right. I'm going to meet my friends for lunch. We're going to go eat at our favorite sushi place together. Look at that bonding and belonging and pleasure, right? And you're excited and it's within your range of all those survival needs with food are met. You don't feel like you're unsafe, blah, blah, blah. You get to that 3, you're at that restaurant, you're starting to be too hungry, so you order some miso soup just to tide you over, right? You know you're not going to get up here with that miso soup, but you're like, because I don't want to get irritable and irrational. So then you're like, ooh, miso soup, I'm so healthy. Okay, so then you start to eat the sushi and you're bonding and it's flavorful and you're tasting it and holy shit, the ginger is amazing. And you're engaging, right? You're engaging with people, you're engaging with the food, you're in a relaxed state, and you get to a place, I don't care how much you've eaten, you can blindfold yourself, you're going to be able to feel the absence of hunger showing up. So when we talk about a 5, right now I'm at a 5, but I'm not eating. The pleasure part of the experience, the people part of the experience, the belonging part, the crunch, the salt, the flavor, the texture. Right now, I have none of that going on. I have this brain balance. While you're eating, you're getting high. Not only on the food, on the whole experience. So this registration, the register of 5 can be complicated while you're eating. Do you guys feel like you understand what I'm saying? I know you've all had that experience. When do I stop? How do I stop? Well, based on this rhythm, essentially, once you get into this zone, you are at equilibrium. Your blood sugar is adequate. Body fat is starting to fuel everything. What's the point at that point? Besides that part of our psychology, our social psychology, it's a social interaction that's like, yes, love, friendship, togetherness, right? You've got to be able to parse and compartmentalize these experiences, right? You following me? So when should you stop? what I do and what I recommend is to know, oh, I'm really enjoying this. This food is so good. I'm at a 5. So I have some lag. I have wiggle room. You don't have to stop. This isn't fight or flight. This is not all or nothing. You can keep on going. You have room. However, there's going to come a point where you're going to hit a 6, right? So 5 is, what do I have that down? 5 is it satisfied or 6 satisfied? What do I put as 5? Nothing? Okay, content. Thank you. It's been a long time, you guys. It's been since last semester that I taught this. Give me a break. So content, satisfied. So that 6 point, you could stop and be fine. So there is a time component to this, right? If you're at a 6, you're satisfied. Could you keep on eating? Oh, hell yeah, you can. Because you're not full yet. There's no mechanical sensation of distension. Your gut could handle more. Okay. It comes with consequences though, right? So at this point, you are balanced. So here we are. You are satisfied. Hunger is legitimately absent. Okay. But that doesn't mean you're still not wanting to taste something. Doesn't mean that your friend didn't order some type of dessert and you want to have a taste. You still have room. Okay, this is not like, oh, there's a cliff and it's over. And you're going to be like 200 pounds in the next few days. That would be the eating disorder feeling that people get. But there's this gray zone in this zone here. If you stop at a 6, there's going to be lag. Do you guys know what that means? You know how like when you're in your car and you put it and you've got your foot on the brake and you put it in park and then you take your foot off the brake and the car goes boom, like it moves a little bit more, that's lag. What that means is you may stop at a 6 and 20 minutes later, whoop, 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 you're keep on going, it's a 7. Does that make sense? So it can take some time for these signals of satiation to show up, which is the 7. I'm pretty sure that's the 7. I'm satiated. Screw my spelling. Satiated. Satiated. So satiated is like, okay, I've had enough. If you eat more, you're going to start feeling that physical fullness. Okay. So when you say I'm full, you're describing the 8. This means you have eaten a lot. You are now feeling full. You are now feeling the physical mechanics of too much food. Like it's at the edge, right, of your kind of physical limit. So with 6, I want to go back to the time constraint. So come back to 6. Once you feel I'm satisfied, you could eat more. Okay. Legitimately, you could have a few more bites or whatever. I want you to consider if you had to run 3 miles as fast as you could, or 5 miles in an hour, how much would you eat? Would you go to that? You're all doing this. Did you have to learn this in school or is this intuitively understood? You're not going to do that. You'd be really uncomfortable. How many of you guys have eaten too much and then been like, oh shit, I got to go out to PE or crap and it hurts and it's not good. Your stomach hurts. So this here, I want you to, when you practice a 6, I want you to think, oh, if I had to go run 5 miles in the next half hour to hour, that's a good place to stop. I could do it. I would be fine. The other thing with a 6 is you're not going to be hungry for a few hours. You can get a sense like, I should be good for a few hours, right? So the lag meaning how long does this last up here before you get down, tipping down to here again? So can you see how when you're thinking about hunger as you eat, that, I mean, how many of you process through, how long is this going to last before I can eat again? Can I make it? And how often you might overrun this in anticipation for how long it might be. That's actually a process, right? But key here is that you have all this abundance of food that you can overconsume. But let's imagine that you can eat when you're hungry again. When you get into this zone, you have food, you can go eat again. When are you going to stop? Do you need to go down here? So the idea in terms of what we call what I call the Goldilocks zone when I teach this, you guys know what I'm talking about with Goldilocks? Porridge isn't too cold, porridge isn't too hot, it's just right. This is your Goldilocks zone in this zone. So here, and kind of from here, 9, let me finish this. 9 is you're in pain. You want to puke, meaning you're nauseous. How many of you guys have made yourself not puke out of bulimia, but puke out of like, oh my God, I ate too much. I feel so sick. That's what that is. That's the 9. Now your blood sugar is probably toxic. Your gut is just saying, we got to get rid of this. This is toxic. You can die over overconsumption of healthy food. Okay. Doesn't matter. So that 10 is pain, nauseous. You want to sleep. You have to unbutton your pants. You gotta lay it down and open your guts open, right? That's a 9. A 10 is you are going to the hospital. How many of you have gone to the hospital because you ate so much? Very rare, right? But it happens. Some people get there and it feels like and typically this happens first though, right? So does that make sense? So this is all mechanical. There is no hunger involved with that. Okay. I've been here. But where should we sit? The ideal place in terms of this kind of fueling system that I had all right here is that you can swing. Of course, you have the ability, the body has the ability to adapt to all of this, right? It can handle all of this. You won't die. You're probably not going to die, right? You'll puke it up before you die. You're not going to die. But in an ideal world, in an ideal setting where food is abundant, you can get more, it's safe to eat and it's novel and pleasurable, that you are really kind of sitting in this zone throughout the day. God, this one sucks, but I think let's use the green. Okay, I'm going to take this out. Take that out to make this more clear. I would say the goal was that you sit in here. Throughout the day. And you want to avoid this. You want to avoid starvation if you can. If you can't, that's fine too. Just start with crackers. And then pull yourself up so you can slow it down and pick and choose what you want to eat. And then as you eat, be aware of when you hit this. And then start thinking, oh, if I had to run 3 to 5 miles in the next 30 to 45 minutes, where would I stop? Okay, I'll stop now. The other way to think of it, if running doesn't make sense to you, how much would you eat if you knew you were going to help a buddy move furniture for the next 5 hours? Would you eat to here? Knowing you're going to have a beer in between? Probably not. You're probably going to come to this point and go, oh yeah, I want just enough. I want to feel energized. I want to feel good. I want that thyroid opened up. I want to feel like I got what I need to focus and sustain me so I'm not down here because then I'm going to be bitchy and angry and short-tempered. Does that make sense? This is the Goldilocks zone. This is not as easy as I'm making it sound. Why do you guys think? What would make this what would complicate this for you? And me and anybody. Besides exercise. Keep that out of it.
Busyness of their schedule.
Totally. Schedule and busyness. How many of you are wait staff where you cannot eat and you're on your feet? That gets complicated. You're going to get a job where you're going to be in a meeting, right, for 4 hours. And should you be eating chips like you do in class? No. It'd be weird if you're like, hold on, let me get some chips or whatever, but that complicates things. People who work in medicine, that may be able to drink but can't eat, and just you might not get a break. Where's your lunch break? When is it appropriate? Times when you're in scarcity, you might not have enough food and you're trying to spread it out, right? What do you do when you're on a cruise and there's food available at all times and all types of food, and you're at a freaking buffet of that table of abundance is made fresh to you at all times after coming off of a diet? How are you going to do that, right? That part of our wiring around, do I have food? Can I get more? Is it enough? Is it safe? Is it novel? Is it pleasurable? You start fucking with that, and this becomes very difficult to feel. Very difficult to feel. So imagine you're trying to lose weight, or you're trying to do some freaking diet some wellness influencer told you to do, and you're down here and your friends are having tacos. And you're like, oh my God, but I'm fasting. I shouldn't eat a taco. But you're like, oh, I'm missing out. Okay. I want the guacamole, but that's inflammatory. Sorry. I got too much education. Anyway, so then what's going to happen if you feel deprived, if you feel withheld, you're going to override everything. It doesn't freaking matter. You're going to eat it all. You're not supposed to have that pie, and you had a piece of pie. Well, fuck it. You're going to eat over here because you're going to try to get the pie gone so that it's not available tomorrow. You'll just eat the whole thing, the whole bag, the whole thing of bread, whatever it is that you shouldn't be eating. You're going to eat it all. And you're not going to eat it slowly and enjoy the pleasure. You're going to try to shove it down, because if you chew and taste it, the guilt is there. So you're going to shove it down without even tasting it, the whole thing, because it needs to be gone so that you don't ruin your diet tomorrow. So do you see how all of that psyche can impact this? This is really easy when you are really secure with food. If you're insecure with food, woo, this is hard. So everything gets fragmented. It gets fried. The signals get all mucked up. Okay. So in an ideal world, when you guys practice this in this assignment that I just started, and I'll put the due date, I'm going to make it actually, let's do this together. Let me get into this assignment. I have 5 days. So let's make this due a week from Wednesday. Does that sound reasonable? It would be great if you could get a weekend in there as part of it, because weekends are different. Because of like less distraction. It also includes alcohol, which I think is really interesting to add to this. Because alcohol affects this too. It's a food, right? It's part of this. So why don't we say you need to have at least one weekend a day in here out of the 5 days. Okay. Before I go any further, do you have any questions for me about this hunger and fullness scale from 1 to 10?
Like, where would you be on like scale if you're like craving like a certain food?
Cravings are emotional, period. They used to say it was nutritional, and now we know that's not actually true. So cravings are desire. So what I would do if you're monitoring this is that's a really healthy thing. So I don't want you to think that that's a bad thing. Cravings are really healthy. What is it that you desire? What sounds good to you? You might be desiring something novel, right? Something that you've missed out on, or something that you're connecting to, like Rolos for me with my mom and feeling like I was important to her, right? Like, what is that? So thank you for asking. Did you guys hear the question? Where does craving fit on this? It does not. Craving is about kind of pleasure, and it's important. So what I recommend, okay, is as you choose what to eat, that you go into your craving, like when you're hungry, What is it that you're craving? You're talking to the pleasure center of the brain. You're actually talking to the mouth that has all those receptor sites for pleasure. It's meant to be there. It's amazing. It's just it's kind of the funnest part about being human. For me, at least, is the delight and excitement of food. Freaking awesome. I get excited every day to wake up and have coffee. You know, I go to bed excited to drink coffee. And I only have like a half a cup every day, but it's the best half a cup ever. So that's important. So I would say craving should be included every time you freaking eat, every time. But just know, where is it coming from? Is it coming from a feeling of deprivation? Is it coming from a sense of like what is it called when someone is like, ooh, I'm gonna do something wrong. I have a friend who she loved smoking cigarettes because it was the one thing that gave her a sense of like, I'm breaking the rules. Yeah. Some people do that with food. Like, I'm just gonna eat quote unquote what the health industry calls bad food because screw them. Know what that is. That's a form of pleasure too. The pleasure isn't necessarily the food, it's the pleasure of breaking rules around your food moral code that was given to you probably by a religious ideal or an ethical ideal or a moral concept that the food industry has imposed on you that you soaked in and you believed it, right? Like, did I confuse you with what I just said? Okay, sometimes I feel like it's just word vomiting and I don't understand what I'm saying either. So don't hesitate if you don't understand. So let's talk about the assignment. So pull up that daily log. I think what I'm going to do is pull it up here, you guys. This is just going to take a moment because I have to log everything in. So while I'm doing this, take a look at it and look at the assignment. Like what it is that I'm asking you to do. So the first thing, so if we look at the assignment, the first thing I'm asking you to do is write your wake time. Why do you think that's important? Anybody have a guess? It's really quite simple. It's essentially when you wake up, right? We know that the hormones in the brain are now kind of coming to some equilibrium, that you're consciously awake, right? You've come out of unconsciousness. That point, we want to see if there is lag hormonally to those sleeping hormones, which stimulate leptin. So once you've woken, we want to see how long it takes for your leptin levels to decline enough for hunger to rise. Did that make sense? So writing that wake time up isn't for me. None of this is for me. It's all for you. Okay, this is all practice for you. But the reason you need to write that down, and you will get docked points if you do not write your wake time. Write the wake time. Just follow each point, okay? Is so that you can see generally the length of time it takes for your hunger to arise. Some of you are going to wake up and you're going to be hungry like immediately. And some of you are going to not be hungry until 5 hours later, 6 hours later. It could be because of the stress you're under. It could be because of where you're at in your menstrual cycle. It could be because you ate 3 meals, binge ate the night before. You could have it could be for a lot of different reasons. The other part of this is if you smoke cigarettes or you're vaping nicotine, that can affect your hunger. Smoking marijuana can affect your hunger, right? These rhythms. I would note, because I don't give a shit at all what you do. No, I tote on a spleef at this time, just so you get a sense of what's happening, what is affecting. your hunger. Just write it down, take a note. And you don't have to share that with me, but put it on the side, like, how's that affecting my hunger? Okay, let me focus here for a moment. So then you'll notice that it says, let me go into here on the hunger. Shut the hell up. Oh my God, you guys, I have to pull everything up again. You are kidding me. No. Jesus Christ, let me focus here first. Oh, wrong one. Okay. So right here, daily log. Okay. So put the date. Right, up here you can say woke at this time. Just jot it down. And then this is reserved, this space is reserved for when you get actually hungry. So what time did you actually get hungry? Some people put wake time here so they can kind of see the time frames. And then write what you ate. You don't need to do calorie counting. You don't need to do measuring. I don't give a shit how much you eat. It should be irrelevant. That's irrelevant to me. This is what's relevant. Okay. You're not impressing me, but please don't do it to impress me. I don't care. Some people are like, I want her to know I'm perfect and I do things perfect. I don't care. You're not getting graded on perfection around this at all. You're just getting graded on, did you mark these boxes? Did you actually put your wake time, right? Did you actually pay attention? Are you actually giving detail, right? The goal is that you get something out of this. And I will tell you right now, the feedback from the last 4 years of classes, this is a game changer for so many people. This is like, holy shit. This has changed not only how I think about eating, but how I think about food and how I think about my body. It's very simple. This is the easiest food diary you'll ever do. Just write bowl of cereal. I don't even care what cereal. I don't care. If you want to write it down, great. You don't have to be crazy detailed in here. The key here is one, you need to rate your hunger before you start eating. Okay?
How would you track it for that day on this list?
I would say, what's the date? What time I woke up? The first time I got hungry, put it right there. And then let's say the first time I ate, I had 2 eggs, some sourdough toast with some butter on it, and half a cup of kefir. I write that right here. I'm going to assess my hunger before. You'll notice on this page, oh, there's a quick reference. I'm gonna say I was at a 3.25. Not quite a 3, right? And the more, again, not again, because I haven't said this yet. The more practiced you get, the more precise the numbers, the more you start to know there's a difference between a 3 and a 3.5. There's a difference between a 3.5 and a 4. There is a big difference between a 6.5 and a 7. Like it becomes really, really easy. You become really, really good at just defining it. So I would put like I was a 3.25 and then I ate half of it and I was at a 6.5. Within 30 minutes, it was a 7. Okay. And then I'm going to wait. So I'm fasting, if you want to call that, between when I get hungry again. And so if you're only eating 3 times, then you can put 3, it's 1, 2, 3. You don't have to fill it all up in. Does that make sense? So then the next time I get hungry, I'm going to put right there. Oh, and then you can see how long it is that it took you to go from that 6.75 back to, let's just say here, I was at a 2 because I had a course.
Okay, so you write down the exact time you got hungry?
Yep.
Okay. And then do I need to write down
And 8.
finish eating?
Yeah, like you can say how much it took. You can say I sat down and had half a bowl of top ramen, ate a whole. All right. And then the other thing, and we'll talk more about this on Wednesday, is if you want to eat and you're not hungry, write it down. Be like craving, ate anyways, I'm bored or I'm stressed. Write it down. I don't care. You're not doing anything wrong, right? So make this stress-free, judgment-free. Just learn your habits.
At the end of it, we should have 5 documents of 1.
Yep, you should have 5 documents, 1 for each day. And if you have more than 1 for each day, that's fine. And then when you turn it in, and I'll talk about this on Wednesday, don't give me 5 separate things. Put it into one document, one PDF, okay?